Welcome back to Dinar Trend Tracker channel, where a genuinely historic rewriting of the financial world might be taking place today. Imagine for a second if I told you that a currency that was formerly only used in dark corners of the internet and office speculation has suddenly made its way onto the world stage, causing shockwaves in financial markets around the world. Bloomberg and routing terminals throughout the world have shown live coverage of the Iraqi Dinar IQD, which has long been the object of both enthusiastic support and professional doubt. For a long time, experts thought it was all in your head. Embraced by the dollar, the euro, and the yen, it was a relic of economic anarchy that never found its place. Still, it seems like the unthinkable has transpired today. It is now more than just something to talk about in theory. The world's most powerful currencies are right there on the ticker. Economists, traders, and investors are all trying to make sense of what happened. Is the age of emerging market finance coming to a close? Perhaps the beginning of a fleeting speculative conflagration? Whatever it is, this very moment signifies a sea change in how the world sees things, who has the upper hand, and how money is moving around the world. Keep an eye on developments because they have the potential to change the way wealth, history, and money are governed. 3 cities that never sleep when money moves are London, New York, and Dubai, and it's early in the morning there. There is now an electrifying buzz emanating from the trade floors. Algorithms tweak, screens flash, traders hunch over. Behold, IQD, shining brightly among the currency pairs in real time. Astonishment, amazement, and finally, a sense of urgency replace initial skepticism. Is that actually true? There is a buzz among traders. Do a feed refresh. However, it is not a buzz on live financial platforms. All of a sudden, it was acknowledged by the systems and infrastructure that support global trade liquidity, routing, and execution algorithms. Deeper preparedness is indicated just by the existence of live pricing signals. A settlement mechanism, data integrity, and institutional involvement are all present. For a long time, many said that investors who kept actual DNR notes were holding on to paper dreams. However, those bits of paper now match to real, verified market data, which has never happened before in contemporary memory. Desks at large banks are constantly updating their models to account for IQD, even though these algorithms weren't originally built to deal with it. Possibilities and chaos have become indistinguishable. As the first substantial trades enter the system, and the financial world anxiously awaits their arrival. There is no probability that this is occurring. The Iraqi Dinar's unexpected appearance on Bloomberg and other major routing terminals is evidence of top-down financial architecture coordination, planning, and approval. A currency needs to pass a battery of technical and regulatory tests, including verification of data, clearing agreements, liquidity sources, compliance screening, and more, before it can show up in those feeds. Something major has transpired behind the scenes, suggesting the involvement of governmental, institutional, and potentially central banks entities. Oil income management, foreign reserves, and anti-corruption measures have all seen subtle changes in Iraq's economic environment throughout the past decade. The IQD's complete incorporation into worldwide data networks, however, implies that all of these endeavors will culminate in a singular moment of acknowledgement. This could mean that major correspondent banks or global clearinghouses have come around to the idea that the dinar is a currency deserving of a place in the global trading system. Openness, an impending revaluation, or redenomination, the result is the same. No longer is the Iraqi dinar an afterthought. It is clear, quantifiable, and could be put into practice. And transparency is key in international finance. Everything from how people see things to how much money is changing hands. The events of today seem almost unbelievable to the average person who has held dinar notes for a long time and who has been teased for their optimism. They were all hoping that stability would return and the value of the Iraqi dinar, IQD, would grow, so many bought it after the 2003 currency restructuring. They see this as a chance for personal vindication rather than a purely financial matter. But it is also the time to be careful. Just because a currency shows up on Bloomberg doesn't mean it will be revalued or instantly convertible. There are several obstacles to overcome on the path from data feed to liquidity reality, including complicated exchange methods, fee structures, taxation, cross-border settlement, and anti-money laundering compliance. There may be a lot of early volatility, huge spreads, and distortions caused by speculative activity until things settle down. Investors, in their euphoria at having proven themselves right, should keep in mind that markets reward patience, not hard work. Either this is a temporary flurry of excitement or it might be the start of Iraq's return to the world economy. Whatever the case may be, today is the day that the dinar was once again mentioned, this time as an actual asset in the most influential financial networks around the globe, rather than just a rumor. The dinar's history has just begun its most dramatic chapter, which might be seen as a triumph or a warning tale. New opportunities may present themselves to Iraq at this very moment. Avenues that go well beyond mere symbolic or commercial interest. A global quotation and trading mechanism for the Iraqi revolutionary consequences. Envision a world where Iraq's oil imports and exports are not entirely reliant on dollar transactions, and instead, all trade deals are settled directly in IQD. Imagine bonds produced by Iraq in its own currency, the dinar, so that investors both at home and abroad might hold them instead of foreign notes. These changes have the potential to reshape Iraq's financial infrastructure, giving the country more control over its own fiscal and monetary fate. However, this does not happen by itself. Iraq needs to show that it can be consistent, has discipline in its policies, and has transparent leadership if it wants that lofty goal to come true. After the thrill of fame wears off, the arduous process of establishing one's credibility must begin. The markets may be ecstatic about the news of the day, but they will be demanding evidence tomorrow. Stability, predictability, and trust will define the destiny of the dinar, not headlines, for years to come. Just being on international terminals isn't cutting it. If Iraq wants to establish itself as a serious player in the global financial arena, the dinar needs to operate consistently, reliably, and competitively there. Skepticism is valid even in the midst of the euphoric rush. Traders and economists with experience know that being visible doesn't always mean something will last. Trading floors are reverberating with the important inquiries. How long will the launch last when the first thrill wears off? Are we going to have adequate liquidity to deal with actual institutional flows? Will the process of changing into more stable currencies continue to be simple? Conversely, will friction become apparent as the volume increases? Is the most important question whether or not central banks will ever include IQD in their official reserves, indicating their acceptability for the long run? You won't find, or continues to be a specialized book. Moving ahead will necessitate steady policies, trustworthy money management, and cautious incorporation into regional clearing systems. The first indications of self-assurance are often flimsy. A single day's worth of development could be wiped out by uneven regulations, capital limits, or abrupt policy reversals. However, the first concrete step has been taken today. From theory to data, the IQD is gone. From speculation to actuality. The stability of Iraq's reforms and institutions, as well as the perseverance of investors who can see past short-term fluctuations and into the long-term possibilities of a country re-establishing its financial identity, will determine its future trajectory. The current events are occurring in a geopolitical context as well as a financial one. There is more to a currency than just economics. Sovereignty, credibility, and alignment of strategy are all represented by it. With the debut of the IQD, Iraq is essentially sending a message: we are here and prepared to engage. The move shows that Iraq wants to change its image from an oil exporter and war zone to a rising financial player with independence aspirations. Now regional neighbors, global investors, and sovereign funds must re-evaluate Iraq's profile. Ideas about partnership, influence, and risk are transformed by just one action. Subtly shifting Iraq's place on the Middle Eastern economic map, it implies that Baghdad aspires to be financially present in addition to being relevant in the energy sector. Adding IQD to the list of major global currencies may have political implications, such as indicating preparedness to comply with dole standards and suggesting alignment with particular international banking institutions. But symbols are insufficient on their own. The message's credibility will be evaluated by how well Iraq manages liquidity, strong one by declaring its intention to regain financial independence on its own terms, which will have a ripple effect around the world. Potential dangers, unpredictable outcomes, and importance of exercising care. Nevertheless, dangers are present despite the festivities. Any newly trading currency is susceptible to severe early volatility. This includes the IQD as well. Unexpected price differences can emerge. Evaporation of liquids may occur in a matter of seconds. As systems adjust to the changing dynamics of volume, orders may not execute without errors. The market here isn't mature or stable. Like a frontier, it offers both opportunity and danger to those involved in the financial sector. Serious losses await those whose emotions get the best of them as they rush in, rather than their strategy. No organization, no matter how advanced, will be too cautious. Reducing exposure, hedging positions, and implementing stringent risk controls until patterns are identified. It is imperative that retail holders and speculators be vigilant in this scenario. The key to staying alive is self-control. More important than belief is timing. As the market settles into a rhythm and liquidity deepens, the path to stability will most certainly take months, if not years, of adjustment. The astute will see this as a process rather than a lucky break, and the early stages of any new currency, be it the yuan, the ruble, or the rial, are notoriously difficult to anticipate and are rife with opportunity and danger. Iraq must now overcome this instability into progress while keeping the necessity for control in the forefront of their minds. Holders and newcomers can find guidance here. Who knows what the future holds for those who have Iraqi Dinar or are just now becoming interested in this development. Above all else, take your time and don't freak out. Get to know the ins and outs of IQD settlements, redemptions, and conversions with your local exchange, bank, or broker. Different liquidity methods, fees, and transfer time frames can be somewhat different. Also, it's not cheap to be ignorant. Second, space out your exposures. You should never risk losing all of your money on a single move. Skilled traders know how to scale up or down, diversify their holdings, and time their trades well to minimize risk. Fourth, consult an expert if you can. When dealing in foreign exchange, strategy is more important than luck, particularly when dealing with newly traded or volatile currencies. Prepare for potential waves. There has never been anything like what is happening before. Over time, the system will change, and some users may struggle to adapt. Instead of seeing this as a guarantee of quick riches, think of it as the beginning of a lengthy and unpredictable financial ecology. Even though it's open, the frontier is still rather rough. For those who are wise, patient, and prudent, this might be the beginning of something truly remarkable. And those who are only interested in short-term profits run the risk of being swept away by the hurricane of uncertainty that follows any major shift in the market. A bigger transformation in the global currency environment. When seen in a larger context, this event may change the face of global currencies forever. The established order of wealth distribution has been mostly unaltered for many years. There is the US dollar as the safety net, the euro as the counterweight on the continent, and the yen as the rock-solid currency of Asia. Dozens of lesser currencies have remained on the periphery, beneath these behemoths, and have hardly made a return to significant circulation or international settlement. There is a test of that paradigm today, though. A structural and philosophical dilemma. World's top currencies. With hard work, research, and focus, can a currency that was previously considered worthless regain its respect? There may be a surge in interest in reviving other underappreciated or defunct currencies if the IQD proves to be resilient and liquid. Regaining monetary independence could be a realistic goal for nations that have been dependent on foreign intermediaries for a long time. Less concerned with short-term value and more about sovereignty, this change is nuanced but significant. A more pluralistic system, in which smaller economies are no longer marginalized but rather actively engaged, may be gradually eroding the global balance of financial influence. The credibility of Iraq and the preparedness of global institutions to accept a decentralized and more diverse monetary future that confronts decades of domination determine the longevity of that tilt. Technically speaking, the processes underpinning this momentous occasion are complex and vital. What actually occurs when you make an order for IQD now? How are those orders being routed through the exchanges? What liquidity pools handle these requests? What rates of exchange are connecting the dinar to other major currencies like the USD, Euro, and GBP? At this early hour, reliability is going to be difficult to come by. As a result of the inherent unpredictability in pricing depth and market-making commitment, spreads can differ considerably among platforms. Not many brokers offer complete bidirectional conversion just now. Batch settlements or execution constraints may be imposed by others. As the infrastructure adapts to the live demand, orders may only partially fulfill or fail completely. That is not deceit. It's the inevitable growing pains of a newly formed market system. Investors should study up on settlement methods, counter behavior that is transparent. The IQD's international reputation will be shaped by the institutions that successfully navigate this initial complexity and provide trustworthy execution, transparent spreads, and credible clearing. Underneath all the hoopla is a complex network of systems that are constantly learning and adjusting to fit a currency that nobody saw coming back into circulation. As the media frenzy escalates, it will be crucial for outside observers to maintain composure amidst all the chaos, whether they are in Iraq or engaged in global financial circles. Blog entries, speculation, and a deluge of headlines are already gathering steam. There will be those who exult, and there will be others who exaggerate. Be prepared for a deluge of hyperbolic assertions, claims of instant billionaires, valuation miracles, and conspiracy theories about hidden riches. The wise will sift through the constant din to find the signal. Put your attention where it belongs, on the basics, on measurable statistics like volume and spreads as well as regulatory notifications and the actions of institutional players. Keep an eye on the reactions of central banks, the change in trade volumes, and the pricing of risk by liquidity providers. Whether the IQD's ascent is sustainable will be revealed by these measurements and not by online gossip. Investors will be distinguished from dreamers by their discipline and discernment. The only things that have ever kept market revolutions alive throughout history from collapsing are good governance, plenty of liquidity, and trust. Attractive as it is, this moment calls for competence. There will be analysts stealthily examining stats and models for every voice guaranteeing quick wealth. Ignore the drama and focus on the facts. Because there is an indisputable fact that remains amidst all the noise. The Iraqi dinar is now the subject of intense, merciless examination from around the world. This is only the start of something new, it's not the final act. Assuming the dinar maintains its value and Iraq is able to foster confidence via reform and discipline, the seemingly impossible might pave the way for a new economic age. Keep yourself educated, exercise caution, and, most importantly, be ready for anything that may come your way. Important notice: the content of this book is meant only for informative and educational purposes. In no way should it be construed as advice on investing, trading, or the law. Although we have taken great care to ensure that the information and opinions presented here are accurate and up-to-date. Because of this inherent unpredictability and volatility, markets involving developing or newly traded currencies are particularly risky. Before putting their money into the Iraqi Dinar, IQD, or any of the other assets mentioned, viewers, readers, and investors should use their best judgment and do their own research. Any harm, loss, or financial impact stemming from the use or interpretation of the material given is not the responsibility of the author, publisher, or any associated platforms. Promise any particular outcome. The currency markets are highly volatile, and there is a high degree of risk involved, including the possibility of losing one's initial investment, if one were to participate. Before participating in any IQD-related transaction, viewers should seek the advice of competent financial experts who are familiar with taxation, foreign exchange trading, and local regulatory frameworks. No regulatory agency, bank, or government agency has approved this information. By reading this, you are saying that you are willing to take charge of your own financial future.